I remember this young lady, she had just gotten vaccinated. She's African American, and she goes home and she talks to her grandmother. Grandma, you need to be vaccinated. Grandma says, absolutely not. I don't trust the healthcare system. I don't trust any of these people. I'm not going to get vaccinated. The young lady says, well, Mom, the lady who vaccinated me is African American. She says, well, in that case, take me, I want to get vaccinated. The message is important, but so is the messenger.
Data and science and study have shown that African American individuals are much less likely to be enrolled into a clinical trial. So the EQB Med initiative is going to address this major and critical problem in our community.
EQB Med initiative positions us at Texas Southern University to actually have access to innovative and breakthrough clinical studies. We do a lot of work to increase awareness about clinical research participation, but without an opportunity to actually open access for individuals to participate and to build trust in clinical trial process, we are very limited.
Pharmacy is a very important team in communication with the community. And we are not only have a PharmD program, we also have a PhD program. With that, we have more outreach to the community.
We are the #1 producers of African American pharmacists in the state of Texas. Pharmacists are a significant part of the healthcare team. They're able to immunize patients. They're able to help them in a variety of health settings per se.
TSU had the RCMI support back in 1980s, especially in terms of research infrastructure, so the student and scientists can conduct most cutting-edge research, especially in the area of drug discovery and development.
In 2024, the College of Pharmacy and Health Sciences celebrated its existence of over 70 years. We lead a lot of initiatives advancing health equity, training community health workers, providing continuing education for community health workers as well as for our pharmacy and health administration students.
In this initiative, we are going to partner with UTMB, Yale University, and Morehouse School of Medicine. We will be able to gain more experience and resources and guidance on how to recruit for clinical trial and how to conduct clinical trials.
So this clinical research initiative under the EQB Med funding mechanism allows us not just to provide opportunities for clinical trial participation for community members, but it creates a platform for us to train the next generation of pharmacists that will be culturally competent, that will have an high level of awareness of engaging with community members to promote the concept of diversity and equal representation in clinical research participation. Hello, my name is Veronica, Program Director of Texas Southern University's Breast Cancer Screening and Prevention Center, where we transform women's health in breast cancer care and provide mental health services in underserved communities.
In the past 3 years, we have provided mammograms to over 1,400 women.
We have reached women in their neighborhoods through mobile mammogram services,
eliminating barriers like transportation costs and access to care.
Our holistic approach doesn't just stop at screenings. We provide navigation, care coordination and treatment assistance, ensuring no woman is left behind.
We also provide breast health education in diverse languages, addressing anxiety, concerns, and misconceptions about mammograms.
We have established a vast network of over 100 partners, received 5 proclamations, and fully executed over 10 memorandums of understanding.
What sets us apart is our grassroots engagement. We build trust in our community, combining cutting-edge technology with personalized care.
Our vision is to expand our reach and ensure equitable access to breast and mental health services to underserved women.
We believe in saving lives, strengthening our communities, advancing health equity for all women.
Hello, my name is Veronica Ajewale. I'm an associate professor of pharmacy practice and the director for the Community Engagement Core of the NIH-funded Center for Biomedical and Minority Health Research here at Texas Southern University. I want to say a big thank you to you and the community members for joining us for today's program. We are really excited that we will be sharing a lot of great information alongside the experts of speakers and panelists that will be leading us into this conversation. So please have your questions ready. We would have an opportunity to take your questions after today's presentations. So thank you again for joining us, and we look forward to our continued collaboration. Thank you.
I remember this young lady, she had just gotten vaccinated. She's African American, and she goes home and she talks to her grandmother. Grandma, you need to be vaccinated. Grandma says, absolutely not. I don't trust the healthcare system. I don't trust any of these people. I'm not going to get vaccinated. The young lady says, well, Mom, the lady who vaccinated me is African American. She says, well, in that case, take me. I want to get vaccinated. The message is important, but so is the messenger.
Data and science and study have shown that African American individuals are much less likely to be enrolled into a clinical trial. So the EQB Med initiative is going to address this major and critical problem in our community.
EQB Med initiative positions us at Texas Southern University to actually have access to innovative and breakthrough clinical studies. We do a lot of work to increase awareness about clinical research participation, but without an opportunity to actually open access for individuals to participate and to build trust in clinical trial process, we are very limited.
Pharmacy is a very important team in communication with the community. And we are not only have a PharmD program, we also have a PhD program. With that, we have more outreach to the community.
We are the #1 producers of African American pharmacists in the state of Texas. Pharmacists are a significant part of the healthcare team. They're able to immunize patients. They're able to help them in a variety of health settings per se.
TSU had the RCMI support back in 1980s, especially in terms of research infrastructure, so the student and scientists can conduct most cutting-edge research, especially in the area of drug discovery and development.
In 2024, the College of Pharmacy and Health Sciences celebrated its existence of over 70 years. We lead a lot of initiatives advancing health equity, training community health workers, providing continuing education for community health workers, as well as for our pharmacy and health administration students.
In this initiative, we are going to partner with UTMB, Yale University, and Morehouse School of Medicine. We will be able to gain more experience and resources and guidance on how to recruit for clinical trial and how to conduct clinical trials.
So this clinical research initiative under the EQB Med funding mechanism allows us not just to provide opportunities for clinical trial participation for community members, but it creates a platform for us to train the next generation of pharmacists that will be culturally competent, that will have an high level of awareness of engaging with community members to promote the concept of diversity and equal representation in clinical research participation.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning. My name is Nkechi Ogbo, and welcome to our Healthy Aging, Alzheimer's Education for Caregivers webinar. Event. And thank you also to those who are joining us online for this event. Thank you for those in person as well. We appreciate everyone. Want to thank in advance the speakers, the panelists. Want to thank especially Mama Joe Project, Dr. Herb Caldwell for making this possible as well, and for the collaboration and support. Want to thank TXX Southern University as well, and welcome as we open up this event.
Texas Southern University's Center for Biomedical and Minority Health Research Community Engagement Core is funded by the National Institute of Minority Health and Health Disparity Research Center for Minority Institutions program. The CEC works directly with communities to identify and address health-related concerns and reduce health disparities related to ethnic minorities. We provide health education and partnerships with healthcare systems, federally qualified health centers, community and faith-based organizations. For more information, visit us on social media at CEC Texas Southern U, or give us a call at 713-313-1233, or send us an email at cbmhrcommunity@tsu.edu. Texas Southern University.
Thank you, everybody. So just a quick few announcements, because we've got a packed hour and a half. I want to thank again everybody for joining us. There is going to be a Q&A session after the end of our documentary. And please, for those in person, for those our on-site attendees, there are some Q&A cards for you to use to ask your questions. And for those attending online, please feel free to use the Q&A box to put in your questions. And I want to thank, of course, our Sunnyside Health and Multi-Service Center, which is a part of the Houston Health Department, for their great opening of their hearts to allow us to host this in-person event here. So just a few things about it. The Houston Health Department is a full-service department that performs many enhanced functions to address health inequities. Their services aim to benefit all Houston residents, but will take additional steps to support those in need, such as low-income mothers and children, the elderly, and minority populations. Their mission is to work in partnership with the community to promote and protect the health and social well-being of Houstonians and the environment they live in. Their vision also is to foster self-sufficient families and individuals in safe and healthy communities. Don't we want all that? Okay, I'm going to have my colleague, Mr. Mark Ibarra, come and talk about the next two slides.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ogbo. Thank you guys for being here today and for joining us online. My name is Mark Ibarra. I am the Clinical Research Coordinator at Texas Southern University. Here at TSU, we have began implementing a program called Equitable Breakthroughs in Medicine, where our goal is to build a clinical research site here at TSU. The purpose of this site is to bring equitable representation to the African American and Latino American population. If you guys would like to keep in touch and check in on our progress, feel free to scan this QR code here, where you'll find my contact information and progress notes on how we're doing with the site implementation. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for that, Mr. Ibarra. And then next, again, want to welcome everyone to our Healthy Aging and Alzheimer's Education for Caregivers webinar. For our community health workers who are online or in person, please go ahead and sign in to receive credit for this event. And then for anyone who wants to complete our survey, also scanning the QR code will assist you in that. Without much further ado, and I want to acknowledge that this is a typo. He is Dr. Herb Caldwell. He is a higher education professional with over 25 years of experience, currently serving as Chief of Compliance and Engagement at Logan University. He leads BOMM Solutions, LLC, providing consulting for businesses, nonprofits, and government agencies. A former college basketball player, he holds degrees from the University of Illinois and Missouri Baptist University, As the proprietor of All In Music and Media, he creates positive media for faith, family, and community. He's also the lead for the Mama Joe project and producer of the documentary film My Mama Joe, Hope and Help, focusing on health disparities among elders with Alzheimer's and dementia. And I have the pleasure to bring up to the stage here Dr. Help Caldwell, who's going to help to introduce our next. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. I'm Herb Caldwell, and it's such a pleasure to be here in Houston for those who are here physically and those who are watching virtually. This is the experience and story of my family. My mother, Joanna, Mama Joe. In fact, this is my sister here in the room who was our primary caregiver, and we'll get a chance to talk about it a little bit. But what we want to do is just use our story as illustration to highlight some of the pieces the dynamics that happens when you have family caregiving, right? Particularly for someone who may have Alzheimer's or dementia. So over this next 58 minutes or so, just want to invite you to engage with the information, with the story, however is best for you. And ultimately, at the end of the day, we just want to make sure that awareness is raised, and you know that there is information that you can connect with the resources, both those in the room and those throughout greater Houston. So again, thank you for being here. Thank you for having me, and we're looking forward.
This sweet songbird is my mother, Joanna. You can call her Mama Joe. She is one of nearly 7 million people living with Alzheimer's in America. I'm her son, Herb, and on behalf of my family and those who love her, I'll be guiding you through this journey and sharing just a portion of her story, a story of family, a story of hope, hope that we can be better positioned for healthy aging and a better quality of life. I guess it's fair to ask, who is Mama Joe?
Who is Mama Joe? That is a pretty loaded question.
She was my beacon. She was fearless.
Mama Joe to me is a savior.
Someone who took me under her wing, and the rest is history.
A sexual abuse healer, voice to the voiceless.
She's everything, and there will never probably be anyone that has made an impact in my life more.
Jacksonville, Illinois is where our family set roots. A small town most known for its 2 liberal arts colleges. We grew up in a low-income neighborhood. Mom started filling gaps by providing weekend meals to those in need. Mama Joe worked with Kathleen Furlong to expand the feeding program into evening meals, always with help from volunteers in the community. She herself a volunteer, then caseworker at Big Brother Big Sister. Her service to community would include multiple terms on the school board. She conducted job skills training, provided food assistance, a clothing closet. She was just a helper. Mom loved children and dreamed of building a gym and multi-use space so that youth would have somewhere safe and positive. In those days, she did not receive any government grants or corporate backing, and our small church alone didn't have the resources. There were detractors, but Mama Joe was a fighter and full of faith. Folks like Joy French Becker, Don and Roberta Meyer went above and beyond with their support for her vision. And the community was generous with donations, including labor, materials, even anonymous gifts. And with zero debt, the Faith Social Services Center became a reality. And though it would house rec leagues, after-school programs, music production, and so much more, people most often just called it the soup kitchen. For her efforts, she would be recognized by mayors, governors, and even the White House as the 944th point of light. In typical Mama Joe fashion, while other awardees settled for an introductory handshake, President and First Lady Bush were greeted with a warm Mama Joe hug. You can't talk about my mother and not mention her faith, because it was her faith that compelled her to love and serve others without regard to their race, sex, religious belief, income level, or any other factor. She loved people, she loved her community. Not your typical pastor, she was radical with prayer and praise. a toss-up on whether she showed up to the sanctuary dressed in fatigues, a jumpsuit, or clerical attire. Her heart was for the streets, sick bays, rehab centers, any place people were in need of help and healing, including overseas, especially villages and townships near Joburg, South Africa, like Tembisa.
The day that we went to go meet President Mandela at the time, Mama Jo decided to go and to minister at this church. And then I asked her why. She said, well, President Mandela was a good man, but this was an opportunity for me to go and to minister to some people who Lord had put on my heart to share the word of God with. And so her ministering to the people at that time took precedent over her meeting this man who was, a man who had been recognized for many things he had accomplished during that time since he had got out of prison. But that always just stuck out.
So Mama Jo was about people, about family. And our family may be constructed a bit different than most.
I liked her, but I really didn't want to put on that I really liked her as much as I did. But when it came time to one point that there was a possibility of me losing her, I really couldn't stand that.
They would marry in Alton, Illinois, November of 1965.
I remember it real distinctly because after the marriage ceremony, I got a draft notice the next day.
Soon they would start a family. The gorgeous Paula would arrive November of 67, followed by Joy in 71, aptly named in response to our parents' spiritual conversion. Christy came Christmas of 1972, and finally a boy in 74 with yours truly. We were the first four, and it would be that way until 78 when Barbara was adopted, leapfrogging Paula as the oldest. Her brother Andre the next year. Brian came at just 6 weeks old, then brothers Antonio and Maurice. So in just a few short years, our family size doubled, and I went from being the only boy and baby to the middle child with 4 sisters all older, 4 brothers all younger.
I'm not very good at math, but I knew that my dad's salary divided by so many kids, and you're adding more kids, is less and less and less. And we already didn't have a lot of money. So I was like, how are we going to make this happen?
To understand my mom's approach to family, we can look to her own upbringing. The 5th of 10 children, at age 7, the family would be destabilized by the illness and eventual death of their father from tuberculosis. While visiting the site of their childhood home, Uncle recounts a story of how Mom would trick him into sneaking food and other mischief, only to turn and threaten to tell their mother if he didn't agree to do her chores.
She said, okay, if you wash dishes for me, I think it was for a week, I won't tell on you.
She said, I'll give you my meal for the day if you just go down the basement with me to do the dishes. Well, I was all for that because, like I said, we were poor people, and that was a meal for my day.
It's not that Mom was ducking chores or manipulating her best friend. She was terrified of being alone in that basement, desperately trying to avoid the abuse inflicted by an older relative lying in wait. Her father's death left a void of both protection and provision. Hunger and poverty would be an all too familiar part of her childhood.
So Mom would have to eat from the garbage cans, or she'd go and in the morning and go into the little grocery store on her way to school and steal something for her and Aunt Frances to eat. That's why she ended up adopting, because she always wanted at least a family of 10 or more, just like she had.
My adopted siblings, they are my siblings. They're not adopted. Even my play ones, they're my brothers. They're my sisters. Whoever she considered her child, that's a sibling to me.
She was my big sister, 3 big brother, big sisters, and then kind of just mentored me and essentially took me in. Her son at the time was leaving to go to college. I was supposed to go stay for a week and kind of just moved in. We decided to make it official. So at 25, the Caldwells officially adopted me, and I became Letitia Marie Johnson Caldwell.
Or the 10th child and official baby girl. And along with Maurice, Brian, and Ronald are the youngest siblings, or who I describe as the final 4.
Mama Jo pretty much saved me, took me out of an environment, a bad environment, placed me in a good environment around positive people, and didn't just put me there, made sure that I succeeded.
Ronald was in trouble as a juvenile, and the courts would not allow him to return to his home, but gave him the option to be released into Mama Jo's care, although he had never even met her. While the rest of us were born in or chose via adoption, Ronald is unique in that he chose us. And though never officially adopted a Caldwell, he is officially our brother, officially family.
My biological mother didn't like the fact that I chose to stay with Mama Jo versus her. I made the best decision that was for me at that time, because I can almost guarantee if I'd have stayed in that projects, I guarantee I probably would have been either dead or in jail.
My mother has been shared my whole life. My mother is a mother to a million and one people. The name Mama Joe derived from her being a mother to other people's kids, other people's families, other people's needs.
Like Candy, who was feeling isolated and found connection with Mama Joe and quickly became family.
We decided to go parasailing. I've never gone parasailing, and that speaks volumes about who Mama Joe was. She was 60 years old when she did it. Neither one of us could swim. I was in the water and I got scared, but with her encouragement and with the guide's encouragement, I got to go snorkeling.
So I thank you, Mama Joe, for the warmth that you've shown to my family and I, and to all the other loners and strangers that are out there.
It didn't matter how I looked. It didn't matter the scars. It didn't matter if I had hair loss. It didn't matter. Man looks at the outer appearance, but God looks at the heart. This lady is a God sent, and she saw my heart.
Joy said earlier, Mama Joe was an advocate for the voiceless, willing to fight, stand up for others. Jageda Chambers, then a college student, bears witness to this.
I know for a fact, I just know how much I needed Mama Joe.
Facing attempted murder charges for a drunken college fight during spring break, Mama Joe refused to abandon him, speaking up for a reduced sentence and a second chance. Jageda credits her early support and guidance as significant to his mental health. Now, 20 years after his release, he's paying it forward as advocate for others needing support and a chance.
You get all choked up for him, man.
Man, dang, man, at 25, man. And people think they so happy I'm helping. Like, they don't have a clue. Somebody that really helped thousands of people.
And she did it all out of love, not expecting anything in return, which is why she was so shocked when given a surprise party for her 60th. Oh, she cried like a baby, but would soon be cheered up by my father and his best David Ruffin impersonation. And like any family gathering involving Mama Joe, plenty of dancing and good, clean fun. There would be other parties. This one definitely was special.
This is a day I will never forget.
But she would forget, and increasingly forget.
She had asked me to give one of the girls at church a check. And so I went and got it. And five minutes later, she calls me back into her room and tells me to give this girl a check. So basically, within 5 minutes, she had forgotten she had written a check and already given it to me.
Turns out Paula wasn't the only one noticing things off about Mama Joe's memory.
Typically, Mama Joe would borrow my car, and she would go drive around and run her errands, go to the bookstore, down to the mall. And on one occasion, she called and said she couldn't remember how to get back home. She did make it home, but you could tell it was a challenge for her, and I think it got more severe as time went on, and to the point where she wasn't comfortable really even wanting to drive. So I think that was when Joy pulled the trigger and thought, okay, maybe at some point after we moved to Houston, we should probably have her tested.
And so we visited that neurologist. He ran all the tests, did the official test. My father had to be there with her. And a couple of weeks later, I believe it was, we got the results, and he did confirm that it was, early onset Alzheimer's.
Think about dementia as an umbrella term, a big category. Alzheimer's disease, we think, might be the most common type of dementia. One of the hallmarks is changes in a person's memory or thinking. They may have a more difficult time remembering the names of people they've just met, remembering why they walked into a room or what they were looking for in a certain spot. They may have more difficulty finding their way in familiar places, may forget the names of certain objects, common everyday objects, or how to do certain things that they were able to do without effort before, and those problems get worse over time.
So it was good they took action and got the diagnosis when they did. For some families, this isn't the case.
little less than half of people who say, my memory's gotten worse in the last year, have actually spoken with their healthcare provider about that. So I think we really have a big communication issue here, and that has a lot to do with stigma. We rely a lot on our brains. Our brains tell us where our cars are parked. Our brains are our personality. Our brains are our identities. And when we start to have some of those changes in our brains, we become concerned.
Hearing that you have Alzheimer's disease can be difficult news to take in, to let it register, to understand. And it's important for doctors to be very clear, very concrete about what they think is going on, to use the word dementia, to use the word Alzheimer's disease, and to explain what that means for people.
You know, there wasn't a whole lot of direction, you know, just basically maybe gave her 2 meds that we were told don't really do anything, but could help keep the symptoms maybe, you know, from getting worse. And that was pretty much it. We were pretty much left off on our own to visit the neurologist or whoever once a year is what it was.
Age is a leading risk factor for Alzheimer's, and certain groups are at greater risk.
Black people are approximately 2 to 3 times more likely to develop Alzheimer's disease than their white counterparts. And this is based on data from the United States. Being female also increases your risk for Alzheimer's disease.
So as a woman of color in her 60s, Mama Jo was actually a triple threat for risk. Blacks are twice as likely to be diagnosed and more likely to develop dementia at an earlier age. But why these racial differences? According to Dr. Oke Enya and other scholars, it's not race per se, but deep-rooted systemic issues.
A fundamental reason why there are stark disparities and stark inequities is because of structural racism and the various ways in which it manifests across the healthcare system. And so when you have barriers to care, where you are treated and talked to differently, all of those barriers make it more difficult, particularly for Black and brown people, to get the help that they need.
So for instance, you have a community who is showcasing a high trend in diabetes or chronic illness, whatever that situation may be, and let's say our Black population in that community has a higher rate of that disease than the white population. Well, that is a health disparity. When we start taking a closer look, maybe we look at that community and say, oh, there's lack of access to health care in the Black communities. There is a lack of fresh food.
Health disparities are differences in how people experience health, in health outcomes based on different privilege. They are preventable. They're something that we can change because health disparity is not biological. It's not predetermined. It is a social problem.
Regardless of what caused the disease, we had a situation on our hands. Mama Jo needed help and would continue to stay at my sister's home. But Joy's role would shift from daughter to daughter caregiver, marking the start of a new journey.
I knew it was no question. We would serve her. We would do whatever we had to do to make sure, you know, she stayed healthy and that she enjoyed her life, however long that was.
You know, we all like to be independent, in charge of our own life. And that doesn't change when we get dementia. And so it's really important to understand what people can do well and invite them and encourage them and structure the day around them so that they're spending more time doing that.
I would say for 75% of the time, once she was diagnosed, she was fine. You know, she could basically still cook, help around the house, help with my boys. You know, she was doing some gardening. We would go walking. She could still drive for most of that time.
I think probably the thing that we laugh about the most with Mama Jo is that some of our biggest arguments were based on the fact that we both like sweets. And if I would go to the store, if I bought myself something, I would always get her something of the same sign, cookie, cake, whatever. Come home, greet her, give her hers, lay mine down on the countertop, go change clothes, come back, mine's missing. And then she would swear up and down that she never touched it. Now, sometimes I question if that was truly the dementia or if that was just Mama Jo playing me for the fact that I found the cookie wrapper under the bed, you know, a day or two later.
We cherish moments like these, Still, caregiving is filled with obstacles and challenges.
For me, the hardest part was not just the fact that, the burden was, primarily just on me and my family, but to me, the hardest weight was the responsibility. And that was because she was so precious, and I know so many people counted on her. And I didn't want to let anyone down.
And you might say, what does a caregiver do? That could be anything from picking up medication and groceries through really complicated clinical tasks like changing feeding tubes or bandages, doing stretches and physical therapy with the person that they're caring for.
There were times where I had to come off my job because of different issues and different stages she would go through. One particular stage, she would always say she had already eaten. And so she wasn't responding to my dad and wasn't responding to my sister who were there to help. And so I was the only one who could really get her to eat. No, Mom, you haven't eaten yet. I need you to eat this. I haven't. You sure? No, ma'am, you haven't. And she would eat her food, and that would be that.
A stark reality of caregiving is that you have to anticipate the unexpected, which can be a heavy load to family caregivers.
You feel drained because, for me personally, every time I want to go to my mom, I want to make sure I presented myself, happy, like she was not a burden. And so, playing those dual roles, even though it was very draining, very tiring, it affected me differently because I wasn't able to be the mother that I wanted to be, wasn't able to be present like I wanted to be. Like I would still take care of my mother, come home from work, and turn around and go to a football game or swim practice,
It's a devastating disease that robs people of some of the most core features of who they are as a person over time. But it's a disease that we know affects people way beyond the person who's experiencing the memory and thinking changes. It affects their spouse or their partner. It affects their family members across all generations.
As Mama Jo's illness progressed, it became critical to have all hands on deck. That meant involving Joy and Eddie's sons, Noah and Jonah.
So by the time that I can remember anything, she was already kind of far into the stages. And so to me, it was just, that was normal. I didn't think anything wrong with it. Like, okay, she's just forgetful sometimes. That's Mama Jo. That's my Mama Jo.
Once I got older and her Alzheimer's started getting worse, I started being able to help out, give her medicine, and do all this stuff. And for me specifically, she liked me a lot. I was like her Noah Woa. She would literally call me that. And so I had a special touch, and I was able to get her to do things that anyone else wouldn't be able to. We shared the love for honey buns. And so sometimes I'll bargain with her with a honey bun. It's like, hey, Mama Jo, if you take your medicines, you get the honey bun. And after a couple of tries, it usually works.
Obviously, I couldn't do the big things like giving her medicine, but at times where she just wouldn't come out of her room, I would go check on her and make sure she was all right, if she was just sleeping or what was going on. So I was just there as company. I would keep her company.
Jonah may feel his contribution was small, but spending time with an aging loved one with dementia is just as important as more complex types of medical care and support. At one point, the boys were helping in the care of not just one grandparent, but two, as Eddie's father was moved into the home for hospice with declining health.
It's like two different fronts. My grandmother trying to escape the house, roam the streets, not wanting to take her medicine, and my grandfather who is bedridden, using a commode. I don't tell people this, but I slept on the couch for like a good month. Like I was like restless because I was staying up to make sure that if my grandfather needed something, I'll tell my dad. And I went through like a small depression at this time. I wasn't submitting assignments, lying about stuff. And like in my head, I was justifying it. I was like, I gotta take care of my people. Like I'll be okay. I can do that stuff later. And it didn't get done later. It was a dark time.
Eddie's father would hang in there for nearly 15 months before dying at home with family. Both Noah and Jonah looked to band and competitive swimming as an outlet.
With stress and just dealing with my feelings, swim has just been really therapeutic. Feeling the cold water, like relaxing my muscles, and then even being like exercising a lot, breathing hard, heart beating fast, it just gets my mind off of everything.
Even the Esters, who as a couple cared for 13 individuals over the past 40 years, agree there has to be some form of relief to avoid caregiver burnout.
Just a break, an opportunity to get out of the house, to go have a meal outside the house, to go to a movie, to do something for yourself where you can take a moment to try to relax and refresh yourself.
Because, it's easy to slip into depression. It's easy to, just totally ignore yourself and not, because you have to take care of yourself first. And I had to get to a point where I wasn't doing that, and I had to really take a step back because I started to see physical signs that, outside of gaining weight, but other physical signs, where I knew I need to kind of step back and make sure I wasn't so stressed. So when I get too stressed, I start to forget things. And obviously that's pretty scary, having a mother who has Alzheimer's. And I'm like, oh my goodness.
I can remember when my mother was in the hospital. And I would spend the night at the hospital with her at night. Get up at 6 o'clock in the morning, get her up, give her a bath, go home, get the boys up, get them ready for school, take them to school, then I'd go to work. And one night I was so tired driving from Brandon from my class that I fell asleep at the wheel. I wasn't honest with myself that I could not do it all.
It takes a village to be able to deal with the Alzheimer's patient. It could be very overwhelming. It is and can be. It is overwhelming. It's overwhelming. It's exhausting. It's mentally taxing.
I emphasize the need to focus on self-care, joy, cultivation of joy, and simple tips for managing their stress by taking deep breaths for about 3 to 5 minutes with a long exhale, somewhat like sighing. And do it for 3 to 5 minutes, and what you would find, you're less anxious, you're slowing your breath and your heart rate, and your blood pressure drops.
There is a stigma in Black communities, communities of color, about mental health and about going to counseling and therapy, that something must be wrong. We need therapy. Therapy is an unbiased opinion or unbiased person who's giving you information to help you walk through and to help you talk through situations, through things.
People still feel a lot of shame in acknowledging that maybe they are experiencing some level of anxiety or depression or some level of early onset cognitive impairment. What I say to them, though, is there's no shame. We all go through life. We all kind of experience our ups and downs at certain points in time. And there are certain times when we need a healthcare professional to kind of step in. And the only way that healthcare professionals can step in is if you actually seek them out and you present to their clinic or to whatever form in which they're available.
Though not always easy, keeping Mama Joe in the home worked out for our family. But it's not the only option available, and there is no judgment for those who choose differently.
If home care is not appropriate for your loved one, don't let anyone guilt trip you. You have to do what is best to keep your loved one safe. And if it means placing them in a facility, find the best one that you can to provide the care that your loved one needs and place them there. But just don't forget them there. Make sure you're visible. Make sure they see you. Make sure you're involved. That's the best advice that I could give to someone.
Cost is another factor families must consider when weighing care at home versus placement in a facility.
There are at least 7 million individuals who have Alzheimer's disease, which is resulting in about 11 more million people who are serving as their caregivers. Alzheimer's is one of the most costly diseases that we have in the U.S.
Out-of-pocket costs can range anywhere from thousands of dollars to hundreds of thousands of dollars to support the care for someone. And so all of those issues combined are increasing the stress for caregivers.
I never knew until it was basically too late that there's something I could have did to separate my mother's income from her father's income so that she can get some of the benefits that they have Medicaid patients. Now that's kind of crazy. Why does she have to basically declare herself poor or broke in order to qualify for Medicaid to get some of these resources that everyone should have access to?
Medicare is a federal health insurance program for people aged 65 and older or those with certain qualifying disabilities. Medicaid is a joint federal and state program based on income. Some individuals will dually qualify for both programs.
Medicare didn't always want to pay for those costs because there wasn't the ability for someone with a dementia diagnosis to be cured or to get better. The good news is that Medicare has come around, and Medicare does now cover medications for Alzheimer's disease and other costs associated with caring for someone with Alzheimer's disease, including visits to a doctor, brain scans.
Summer of 2024, CMS launched the Guide model. These are Medicare-supported programs that focus not only on improving quality of life for the person with dementia, but also their unpaid caregiver.
Very difficult to know where to turn when you need help with different things. Many caregivers are caring for their own families at the same time. Where do we go for transportation help? Where do we go for someone to come in and stay with my loved one while I can't be there? Where do I go for help with nutritional services, legal issues related to dementia, financial issues? So there are many services that can help with these things, but people haven't experienced that often.
The care of someone with dementia involves more than just the medical community. There's a lot of time between those individual medical appointments where a caregiver needs to manage their day and plan for the future as it is a progressive illness.
Even professionals who work in this field all the time, when it's themselves who need it, have a hard time finding services, and sometimes they're not there.
In St. Louis, Memory Care at Home Solutions is an example of a provider using evidence-based interventions to help families navigate dementia care.
When you become a dementia caregiver, no one hands you the instruction manual. And even if they did, by the time you realize you're a dementia caregiver, you are too overwhelmed to read or make sense of a how-to guide. We want every family to find solutions they can easily and affordably implement in their own homes. We show families, for example, how to set the bathroom up for success with the basics like bathing and toileting routines. We help people simplify the kitchen to prevent fires and improve safety with medications and making meals.
They even provide support for folks like Miss Barbara, who doesn't have family and is living with dementia at a senior facility. A priest and members from a local parish have become her family, collectively serving as guardians over her well-being and affairs.
And when she needed some special help, people at visitation said, "You ought to let the court appoint you as guardian." And I said, "Yeah, that's just what every 85-year-old black woman needs, is a priest as her guardian." And I think really, Carol and I, no, she wants you. So I said, fine, but we're gonna do this as a team. We're gonna be Team Barbara. And when we're deciding whether to put her into a hospice program or take her out, and we did that twice, we're gonna decide that. I'm not gonna do that without us talking and everybody knowing how to be on the same page.
And when asked how she feels about all this fuss being made over her,
Let me join the club.
this is a great example of forming community for those who may not have a large family like ours to assist in caring for a loved one. Even with lots of support, Alzheimer's is a disease with no known cure, so still very challenging.
You may experience the gradual loss of someone whom you have loved deeply for a long time. May get to the point where they no longer recognize you, and that the person for whom you are giving care is so different from the person you once knew. Yes, they're still your mom, and always we hope their memory will be a blessing to you after they've passed away, but you're really witnessing a form of dying of the identity of someone that you love in real time.
Many refer to this as the long goodbye, and it affected our youngest brother in particular.
She just had a presence and an aura around her, and to see that disease deteriorate that so much, it's almost like she was a superhero. And it's like kryptonite. And it's like she just a shell of herself. It's hard to see. It's hard to deal with. It's hard to comprehend.
I never felt like that. I could always see my mother. It's not like I was looking at a shell of her former self. Her personality was always there.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear you. Happy birthday to you.
put that high tone in there.
We be listening to country music. And she's like, shh, don't tell. And I look at her and say, I'm not going to tell her. Because I know Joy don't like country music too much, but her mama loved it.
Hey, Herb. What's up, man? What's up? Just put me a check in the mail. Oh, I failed.
Brian and Joy experienced our mother's decline differently, which is not uncommon for siblings. I actually agree with them both. While it was hard seeing the disease progress, it was still my Mama Jo. As if cognitive decline and memory loss wasn't enough, in 2022, Mom's health took another big hit.
She was given a medication just simply to help her sleep at night. It was a medication that should not have been given to senior citizens who have dementia, and shortly thereafter, she had a stroke.
Though we were unaware at the time, the offending meds were left in her system, triggering a total of 3 strokes and a host of other complications.
She fought very hard. After each stroke, she was up standing, walking, running, talking, eating, enjoying life. However, you can only be knocked down so many times, and that damage to the brain, eventually, it affects other areas of the body.
Multiple medical stays and emergencies would result in Mama Jo, in great part, being nonverbal and immobile, intensifying her need of care. Our family would rally around Mama Jo, like in 2022, when a bunch of us gathered in Houston to celebrate Thanksgiving, including siblings of both my parents, complete with good food, Uno, and of course, a mean game of spades. In 2023, there was another medical scare that lands Mama Jo in the hospital, this time on Christmas, which is also Christy's birthday.
I'm a Christmas baby. I just turned yesterday at 51. It was a very nice birthday. I got my cake, got my candles. I even had a piñata.
Turns out she was terrible at piñata. But it was fun and a welcome distraction for members of the care team. And though living hours away in Illinois, both Christy and Letitia provided important support from afar. Joy in particular became the advocate and voice Mama Jo desperately needed. Though trained in divinity at Yale, she's equally suited as a trial attorney. Smart, observant, and tenacious to hold providers accountable in providing great care for our mother.
We have the right to ask for certain types of care. Any type of care that we need. We have the right to ask for second and third opinions. We have the right to advocate for our health. And we have the right to help our loved ones navigate their health journeys as well.
The fact of the matter is that you can create agency for yourself. And so if you don't think that you're receiving the quality of care that you should, we're here as providers to serve you, the patient. And so if you don't think that you're getting anywhere with Dr. Hamer, by all means, you should fire me and go find another healthcare clinician who you think would be a better fit for you and more responsive to your individual needs.
During this time, Dad would become quite good at administering Mom's meds and monitoring vitals. With the post-stroke complications, Mama Jo's legs had become contracted or stuck in a bent position. She was scheduled for a small procedure to free tendons so that she could stand and prepare to walk again. But before any procedure, I needed to settle the matter of where I ranked among my siblings as Mama Jo's favorite. Am I your favorite child?
No.
I asked the question a second time, and to the delight of my nephews, she answered no both times.
Got the on camera, see? Where's the camera? You got on camera.
These would be the last words I would hear my mother speak. Though surgery on her legs was a success, she did not recover from anesthesia, and her heart stopped. She always beat the odds. She always beat the doctor's orders and what they projected for her. And so we were just waiting for Mama Jo to do Mama Jo things. And so when I tell you that to this day, I'm still stunned to know that my mother's not here on the earth, there's a profound sense of loss.
And so when she died, the first thing I did when I went into the room was, Mom, it wasn't supposed to happen this way.
I was probably pretty angry with God because I felt that, of course, God can do anything, so he could have healed her.
Knowing the person that chose you, wanted you, loved you, is not here, that covering, that level of protection, leaves a big hole.
She had taught me more about life than I can ever imagine. She taught me how to love, how to actually care for her, how to give something back. I miss her.
I don't have the drive to get up and do this or do that. I'm not the first person that does lost someone. And I dare tell, won't be the last person that lost someone that's close to them. So I just got to realize and find out how to navigate through time without her.
The homegoing for my mother was just the type of service she would have enjoyed being at. A joyful celebration with lively call and response singing, poetry, funny stories, tributes from her brothers, her children, and a beautiful eulogy from Richard, who considers himself Mama Joe's #1 son. Yet there was pain. Hard to see the hurt on my siblings' faces, watching my father say farewell to his wife of nearly 6 decades. A big hug from grandson Owen provided Dad a bit of comfort. Ultimately, ashes to ashes, dust to dust.
We are family. Through it all, we are family. If you need me to do something for you, all you gotta do is pick up the phone. We're family. I'll be right there in a hurry. We are family.
Days without Mama Joe have been tough, no two ways about it. But our hope is that you can be better informed and equipped, not only for caregiving or dementia, but positioned for healthy living and aging. So in these last few moments, I want to share both hope and help. Hope looks like The Outlet, a male mentoring program founded over 20 years ago by Michael Fallan. Though a nephew, was more like a son to Mama Joe, and out of all of us, he best demonstrates her heart for outreach, and is still passionate about bringing hope, help, and health, not just to young males, but to their families and the community at large.
As an organization, we are Mama Joe. And if I could get a t-shirt, I would, because this place oozes Mama Joe, and I hope even when I'm gone and the legacy is still here, they will know that if it wasn't because of Mama Joe pushing me out front and saying, Mike, I believe in you, you can do it, even when you didn't believe in yourself. And Joanne really, I think, embodies service.
My baby brother, who may be the smartest of us, admits that he knew nothing about dementia until it hit our family. We have hope that awareness will be increased through outreach and education, as demonstrated in Northeast Ohio, where he now lives.
And what I'm seeing more of is interdependent outreach, which means that different organizations with different interests come together to help serve the community and to help them get access to different resources and information.
Whenever there's an opportunity, whenever there's a free lunch and learn, whenever there's a community event, and if it's a healthcare event, take advantage of the free resources that are given. Just take advantage of any learning opportunity.
Deborah Cloud is founder of a long-standing support group for caregivers, and Rosetta Moore frequently shares her caregiving experience to encourage others.
Some of the benefits offered by a support group have to do primarily with a sense of belonging, and then people say it's nice having someone to talk with who is going through the same thing that they're going through, people who can identify with their plight.
Even though every person that has the disease responds differently, but I can share my experiences with joy, with peace, and with love, that they can go through the same thing.
Truth be known, the church, especially in Black communities, should not be discounted as a hub for information and outreach support.
So why not take the opportunity not only to provide the spiritual help, but the connections around health inequities, around the social ills that face our communities. We are the connector. And so if we stop connecting, who will?
Many healthcare professionals lack understanding of how to care for a patient with dementia and their family. We find hope in specialists like Deb Costu, who has developed online courses to help train providers.
I was trained in medicine and in geriatrics at one of the best medical schools, Harvard Medical School, but I learned so much from Deb's course. We tend to go to medications right away, but a lot of the medications really aren't safe for older people. For instance, the medicines to help someone from sundowning at night, those medicines actually elevate the risk of stroke.
I have had so many healthcare professionals come to me. I think the thing that kind of surprises them the most is how easy it really is. So another good piece to this to add in would be if your person with dementia is eating dinner and they're only eating one side of the plate, then probably one of these glare spots is right there. So simply turn the plate. Just turn the plate, and then they might be able to see it. Does that make sense?
If facility care becomes an option for your family, in addition to a clean and safe operation, consider matching the interest of your loved one to the amenities offered by the facility. For instance, Mama Jo was a social creature and enjoyed board games, so a place with a thriving activity program would have been a must. We find hope in knowing there are quality senior living facilities like this one that offers a more affordable alternative to assisted living. Jerry Doss, who is both pastor and developer, cautions us to get an early start in preparing for our future.
We are getting older, and we want to prepare for that, whatever that looks like, because it's not fair to our children or our relatives if we put them in a position where their life is altered greatly because we didn't prepare. Don't be caught off guard.
There is also help in understanding Medicare and insurance options.
Medicare is an indeed complex, mysterious language. The good news is that there is lots of help available. In all 50 states, there are programs called SHIPS, and that stands for State Health Insurance Assistance Programs. And there is federal money specially designated for Medicare counselors like I am to help beneficiaries and their families understand how Medicare works. We have no financial stake in any decisions that we might guide a beneficiary to make. We understand how Medicare Parts A, B, C, and D work, what kind of coverage is available, and how to guide beneficiaries toward making their best choices so that they can get the health care that they need.
With all that I've learned about Alzheimer's over the course of filming, like family history increases risk and that blacks may show signs at younger ages, I knew I needed to be proactive. So the day after my 50th birthday, I strolled into the Smith Center for Alzheimer's Research and Treatment at Southern Illinois University's Medical School.
Hi, are you Mr. Caldwell? I am. I'm Cindy Womack.
Recently, I've had minor concerns, like at times certain words that have been staples of my vocabulary escape me during conversation. It's no secret that men are less likely to see their primary care providers, even more so for black men, even when they have the insurance and means to do so. I did not want to be here. I was scared. I did not want to do this exam, but I had to. Dementia is real, and I needed to know for myself, as well demystify the testing process for others.
So what's making you uncomfortable?
Oh, just because it's making you face the possibility that there could be an issue, right? So what did it mean if I couldn't write 11 after 10? What did it mean if I couldn't remember wagon, paper, donut? And then what comes next? So those kind of questions are kind of stirring.
Well, let me reassure you, you passed all of that, okay? So this is a screening exam. We're looking for red flags in your cognitive responses. We're checking your attention.
I was relieved to get the good news that I passed, but you can see I'm fighting back emotions and tears. My mind is wandering, and I am wondering, what if Mama Jo could have gotten tested early at age 50?
The earlier you come in, the better it is for you. Because if we can establish a diagnosis, this opens up other opportunities for you.
We want to catch people where they haven't lost as much brain volume or kind of functional capacity of the brain, and where interventions are more likely to be effective, and also to prepare the individual and their family in terms of what to expect, like what's going to come down the road, so they can start to plan and kind of preserve quality of life and for both the patient and their family.
There is hope and help in terms of advances in research for Alzheimer's, including disease-modifying therapies approved by the FDA.
So lecanemab is an antibody that binds to clumps of amyloid beta protein. And that's the protein that forms the amyloid plaques in the brain. So lecanemab binds to clumps of the protein that can either be floating around or be in plaques and clears them out of the brain. So by clearing these clumps of amyloid protein and plaques, we're slowing the progression of Alzheimer's disease.
Around 20 years since we had a new treatment out for Alzheimer's disease. So this is a very important first step.
We are not endorsing lecanemab or any treatment or therapy. Like most drugs, there can be side effects, brain swelling and bleeding in this case. Always consult with your provider about the risk, benefits, and cost of any therapy or treatment.
The two main drugs that are FDA approved right now, one of them you have to come in for infusions every 2 weeks. Another one you have to come in for infusions once a month. So when you talk about rural communities or people that simply have issues with transportation, this can be a big challenge in trying to serve those people.
In rural communities, people are, like I said, they don't have access to health care. So they may not even, the diagnosis may go missed. The care may be delayed.
As an alternative, there is non-pharmacological research like the SHARP walking study in Oregon.
So what SHARP is, it gives older Black adults a place and a purpose and a time to engage in healthy activities. People walk in groups of 3s and they can have healthy memories, or perhaps they have some memory problems, or maybe they have early stage dementia. And they are walking together 3 times a week over the course of, it could be 4 months or 6 months, but the goal is 3 times a week. And they're given a tablet device, one for the group, and on that device, pre-navigated routes, 1-mile loops, and images pop up. They're GPS-linked historical images of the neighborhood. And so that is the reminiscence piece. These are prompts. They can stand on the corner and look at what is, and they can look at an image of what used to be, right? Especially in the gentrifying and historically Black neighborhoods. And in this case, it's here in North and Northeast Portland. This is a way that people can focus on their brain health while actually focusing on what is important to them, what's meaningful to them, and that is their history, their neighborhood, their community connections, and the memories and the stories that they have attached to their neighborhood and to each other.
Advocacy at the state and federal level provides hope for policy change. Policy change that improves access to quality care for all.
My mother taught me that service is the rent that you pay for the space that you occupy. I want to see things change for other people. Find your passion. If you have a loved one or someone that's been touched by Alzheimer's and dementia, get active. Let your voice be heard. You think you don't make a difference, but you're not by yourself.
In 2030 in the United States, older adults, age 65 and older, are going to outnumber younger adults under 18. That's fantastic. But with those increasing years comes an increased risk for dementia. We know people can live healthy, productive lives. We want to make sure that health span matches lifespan.
Some tips for healthy aging when it comes to your physical health. That means eating a variety of fresh fruits and vegetables. That means moving your body on a daily basis. When it comes to your mental health, that means taking breaks, getting outside, getting fresh air. Healthy aging is all about longevity and quality of life. So essentially what that means is it's a blessing to get older, but we also want to enjoy that, and that's where the quality comes in.
There is hope in that there are opportunities to participate in research, which could be an observational study or a clinical trial.
What I would like to see is the first survivor of Alzheimer's.
So we have a program called Trial Match, which essentially is like an online dating service for research trials and helps individuals, whether they're those with Alzheimer's or dementia, as well as healthy adults, because we need all of them to participate in research to recognize the difference between someone dealing with a cognitive change and someone who is not. And so there are all kinds of trials across the country that people can participate in.
One of the problems that we have, though, is that much of the recruitment of those clinical trials often don't happen within communities of color. We can creatively work with the community to provide education around clinical trials, while also thinking about ways to have the community, especially communities of color, engage in research.
We are living in this new era of treatment that has not happened for the 100 years, 120 years before that, that people never had access to these things. And so we are literally kind of at the forefront and hopefully what is the beginning of the end of dementia.
We have new therapies coming out that were recently approved. There's more coming down the pipeline that are being evaluated in clinical trials. So I really do think that there's a lot of hope for the future.
My family and I are hopeful. Mama Jo was hopeful and is at peace knowing that even in death, through her story, she is doing what she has always done, which is help others.
Just seeing her give her life away, just seeing her sacrifice, and I think that is who Mama Jo is.
Maybe we should let Mama Jo tell us for herself exactly who she is.
If anybody asks you who I am, who I am, who I am, if anybody asks you who I am, just tell them I'm a child of God. Tell them I'm a child of God.
We are family.
I appreciate you.
Every man, woman, and child.
I'm grateful for the precious time.
Laughter, joy, and smile.
But there have been some hard times. Through the stormy weather, we'll pray and stand together. I want to say I love you. And I need you too. For now and all times, we'll strengthen the ties that bind after all.
We are family.
Through it all,
We are family.
if you need me to do something for you, all you gotta do is pick up the phone and call me. I'll be right there in a hurry.
We are family. We're family.
I need you. You need me. Oh, we are family. Oh, yeah. You don't have to worry about me, y'all. 'Cause we're family. We're family.
We're family.
Don't have to watch your back, I'm right there. 'Cause we're family.
Can we give a round of applause? Thank you so much. Thank you all for also being here to watch this. We appreciate you staying on. Our next part of this is the panel discussion about, caregivers and their, experience with Alzheimer's. Dr. Caldwell, if you don't mind coming up on stage, you're going to help us be the moderator. And please, can you give a round of welcome for him? He's, again, the lead for this project and the producer as well. All right. You can go right up, Dr. Caldwell. The next panelist I'm going to be inviting up to the stage is Miss Joy Oliver, daughter from Mama Jo. She is a speaker, a consultant who uses her years of professional experience in the healthcare industry to influence positive change. with a degree in political science from the University of Illinois Springfield and a graduate study at Yale Divinity School. Ms. Oliver leverages connection with the faith community and nonprofits to advocate for others facing caregiving challenges. She's also featured, like you all saw in this documentary film, Mama Joe, Hope and Help, which is widely available on all public broadcasting station platforms. Thank you, ma'am. Next person is Mr. Jorge Olvera. Thank you, sir. I'm sure, I don't know if you guys recognize him, but he was also in this documentary. He is the Director of Diversity Outreach at the Alzheimer's Association, Houston and Southeast Texas, who works with vulnerable populations, specializing in community health and senior services. Mr. Olvera has experience developing programs to address social determinants of health in underserved communities, specifically food insecurity and access. He has served in various nonprofit boards and committees in the Houston area, and most recently, he leads the DEI efforts at the Alzheimer's Association to increase the reach of services to the LGBT, African American, and Hispanic population. He also holds a master's in social work from the University of Houston. So please go right ahead and sit down, Ms. Oliver. Last but not the least is Ms. Sade Akinfemiwa. She is a dedicated registered nurse with over 26 years of experience in diverse healthcare settings. Ms. Akinfemiwa earned her Bachelor of Science in Chemistry from Ondo State University, a nursing degree from Houston Community College, and a master's in marriage and family therapy from Abilene Christian University, and is currently pursuing full licensure in Texas. Her career includes hospital care for adult and pediatric surgical residents and works in nursing homes and long-term care facilities. She is indeed passionate about hospice care and mental health support. In 2008, she and her husband founded a career school training thousands in healthcare skills, including nurse assisting, medication aid, EKG, phlebotomy, IV therapy, first aid, and CPR. And in 2010, they expanded service by establishing an assisted living facility for seniors, including those with Alzheimer's. She's been married for 29 years with 3 great children, and she attributes everything to the glory of God. Thank you, Ms. Akinfemiwa. Appreciate it. And I'll leave Dr. Cardwell, this is your mic, and I already have 3 questions online, so thank you.
You want to start with the online questions?
Sure, I can. I actually have my phone here, so I can read that.
While she's getting that, thank you everyone for being here. Thank you for, did you see some things in the film that resonate with your own experience, maybe with your own family? Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. So the first question is, with the research coming out about managing blood pressure, what research coming out about managing blood pressure can help to reduce the risk of disease, and what do you see as the connection between hypertension and Alzheimer's disease?
So, as the film spoke to, there's no known cure for Alzheimer's and dementia, but we know there are some things that we can do to reduce our risk, right? And so there's things we can control in terms of lifestyle, our diet, how we're resting, our sleep patterns, those things, exercise, being active. And what many of the scientists are telling us is that what's good for the heart, right, is good for the brain. So making sure if we can do those things that we can control. Sometimes there are genetic and bio factors that control our levels of blood pressure, but for those pieces where it is tied to our lifestyle, those are things that we can change and shift ourselves. And so we got to help each other in doing those pieces.
And absolutely right. What's good for the heart is good for the brain. There is a type of dementia called vascular dementia. Of course, Alzheimer's is the most common type of dementia, but there are others. And part of it, too, to your point about what's good for the heart is good for the brain. When you think about your brain, every time your heart beats, about 15 to 20% of the blood that your heart pumps out is going straight to your brain, right? And so your brain is about maybe 2% of your total body weight, but it uses up to 20% of that blood that your heart pumps, right? And so when you have hypertension, uncontrolled diabetes, it controls how much blood flow goes to your brain, which essentially causes a reduction in oxygen, which essentially causes your brain cells to not receive the nutrients that it needs, right, which can kill some of those brain cells. And so that's a connection, right? When you think about hypertension, high blood pressure, diabetes or uncontrolled diabetes, that's how it's affecting your brain. Another part of it too is that the more that it goes uncontrolled, the more that it affects your brain and puts you at risk for other things that also affect your brain, right? So uncontrolled diabetes, hypertension, high blood pressure puts you at a way higher risk for stroke, right? And stroke essentially will kill many of those brain cells that also play a role in the potential development of dementia. So that's a connection in terms of your uncontrolled hypertension, high blood pressure, and diabetes to the brain and to dementia.
Thank you so much. That was eloquent. Now, the second question I have, I believe, will be for Ms. Oliver and Ms. Akinfemiwa. And it says, what are the most effective communication strategies for caregivers when interacting with someone with Alzheimer's?
The best strategies for interacting with care providers, communicating to the care to the healthcare. Right.
Okay, so in my experience caring for this population in my home and also working out there, I've seen that you have to be really patient with them. They can reason with you. So whatever they say, you cannot, you have to be patient to be able to answer their questions over and over again. They can ask you what time it is. You say, okay, it's 11:05. 2 minutes later, because they already forgot. Remember, this population are dealing with short-term memory loss. They can remember what happened in 1962, but they can't remember if they had breakfast this morning. So you have to be very patient, and then whenever they ask you the question, you have to be able to answer the question over and over again, because if you don't, then they get agitated, and other things can happen from there. So you have to be really patient. You have to be able to be a good communicator, somebody that can listen to them. Okay, you have to be able to listen to them and, give them what they need. And also sometimes you might need to distract them from, whatever they are focused on at that time. Sometimes they tell you, I want to go home. To them, where they are is not their home, so they want to go home. Or even if they are in their home, they say they want to go home. Okay, you want to go home? It's all right. I want to go home too. But however, we have some snack, and then we go home. Because sometimes when they are communicating with you, they are communicating on met needs. So at that time, they may have a wet brief, but they don't know how to communicate that with you. So in their body, something is wrong, but they don't know how to tell you. So you have to be able to envisage and anticipate their needs. So when they are telling you that, you have to be an investigator. Okay, so you can take them to the bathroom. Before we go, let's check your briefs and see if you need a change. And from there, you can offer them water, you can offer them snack, and that can soothe them and distract them from being agitated.
Yeah, and I just want to add that you have to speak with them with respect. Just because they have, memory issues, a lot of people I've seen speak to them condescendingly. And you can't do that, because at the end of the day, like my mom, I speak for my experience with her, she was still a 78-year-old black woman, and so certain medical professionals would come in and they would say things and do things to her body without respecting her. Miss Caldwell, may I do X, Y, Z? And like one time my dad said, Joanne, sit up, sit up, sit up. She's like, I know what sit up means. She didn't want to. So, we have to remember they still have a lot of sense. Just because they're not responding the way you want them to respond does not mean they don't understand what you are saying. And so we just have to remember those things, and remember also that you will never win an argument with someone who has Alzheimer's. Mm-hmm. Never. So you have to meet them where they are, where they're and everyone is different. Meet them where their understanding is, meet them how they function and how they want to be spoken to, and then go from there. You'll get a lot more done. You'll be a lot happier, because remember, they'll forget in a certain amount of time, but you'll be less frustrated in dealing with them.
A good illustration for that, again, is don't try to pull them to your reality. Get to theirs. So when my children, when we would come to Houston, I would tell them, Mama Jo may refer to you as her niece and her nephew, not as your grandchildren. So if she calls you Mia, she calls you Terrence, just say yes, ma'am, like you normally would, right? So for those of us who don't have dementia or Alzheimer's, we can adjust, okay? We can make it happen.
Thank you very much. The last one is, what are the common emotional and behavioral changes that individuals with Alzheimer's experience? And I'm done.
So I'm going to let my colleague here address this, Jorge. But one of the things is Alzheimer's and dementia is not a normal part of aging. All right? It's not a normal part of aging. And the only true way that you can know that you can have Alzheimer's or dementia is you have to have a health professional, a qualified health professional, give you that diagnosis. And so when you saw, did y'all see how scared I was when I was going to get that test? Y'all see that fear? I wasn't acting, y'all. I was scared for real. But what I knew was I was starting with some words I would normally come to me naturally. They weren't coming as quickly. Well, maybe that was just stress, right? And so the only way, so memory loss can be, a sign. Additional agitation can be a sign. Changes in sleep patterns can be a sign. But when you see these small things, you have to make sure that you open your mouth and talk to your healthcare provider. And Jorge, before you come and address that, this is something that Joy was saying was, that doctor, that healthcare provider, they work for you. So don't let them brush you off when you say, hey, my loved one's showing signs, can we get them tested? And when you heard Dr. Hamer say on the film, if that doctor's not being sensitive to your needs, guess what? God made a lot of doctors. Fire them and get another one.
And that's a very true thing is you can't fire your doctor, right, if you don't feel comfortable. If they're being aggressive in how they talk to your family, if they're just jumping in and wanting to touch or wanting to be invasive without actually showing their respect and the dignity they should for their client or for their boss, if you will, you do have the opportunity to do that, right? And so make sure that you give yourself that ability to make those decisions. And you mentioned a lot of what those changes are, right? Changes in communication, changes in emotion, changes in behavior, right? All three of those are different. I'll start with emotion. A person who may be going through some of these, through the early stages of Alzheimer's or another type of dementia may have those mood swings, right? In some instances, and I know we mentioned it in the film, it's what we call sundown syndrome, where their behavior starts to change as the day ends, right? They either become more agitated or more angry. I think I lost it. Oh, there it is. More angry, more agitated. You may have someone, even within your peer group here at the center, where, all of a sudden they start being less social. They don't want to engage with anyone, right? They start staying at home a little bit more. They start being more aggressive in how they respond, right? All of those mood changes have to do with the brain. When you have those changes in the brain, they present themselves outwardly as mood changes, changes in behavior, changes in the way you communicate. Right? Loss of words. That's another one that happens very often. You may have a person who all of a sudden starts forgetting common words, right? They're eating and they're having a full conversation, but they just cannot remember what the word is for that thing you use, right? And in their mind, they know it's called a fork or a spoon, but they can't find that word within their brain, right? And so you have to be careful for those types of signals. The biggest message about that is that this is what we call early detection, right? The sooner you see those changes, the sooner you get to your primary care physician and mention these changes, the sooner you can have a potential diagnosis if that is indeed what's happening with you, right? And early diagnosis is the access or the key to treatment. I know we mentioned treatment in the film. Treatment is most effective if you're in the very early stages of this disease. And so as soon as you start to notice those changes, it's very important to have that conversation with your loved one first, with your primary care physician as well, and saying, I'm noticing things. And be adamant. If you see the changes are happening, don't let your physician disregard it and say, this is what happens. No, this is not a normal part of aging. And so you need to address that because early detection is the key to that diagnosis, and diagnosis is the key to that treatment that will help you live a much longer life and a much better life, not only for yourself, but for your loved ones as well.
So thank you for our online guests for the questions. We only have just a few minutes here, so let's throw each of you a question, and maybe in 90 seconds if you can adjust it. So Joy is my natural sister, okay? So I'm her eldest brother. Now she would tell you, but I have the mic right now, that I'm her baby brother. No, don't give her the mic, Miss Sade. Oh God, don't give her the mic. Because she'll tell you that I'm her baby brother, but I'm the oldest brother she has. But Joy was our primary, she was my mother's right hand in caretaking. So you saw her husband there, you saw her sons there. So Joy, give us an idea of what other caregivers should know about the physical and kind of mental impact. And while addressing that, also address the family dynamics, right? Because you were helping take care of your parents while also trying to raise your own family and your own household. So give us a sense and some tips you would give for others about both the physical and emotional toll of caregiving.
Thank you, baby brother. So just because he's 6'8", he's still my baby brother, y'all. Okay, so some things that I want to share is, there's a lot of guilt that sometimes go into caregiving. And because we feel like, it's worse than mom guilt. Because, at least with mom guilt, your child's going to be older and they're going to be able to take care of themselves, right? They can feed themselves, go and watch TV, do whatever. But caregiving guilt is not quite the same because you don't have that necessary promise and that hope that they're about to get up and do better, right? And so, but you have to give yourself grace. You have to know that you're doing your best, that you being there, loving them, and being there present for them, that matters a lot. And it goes a long way. And with that guilt, I think that the more you compare yourself to others, because everyone's situation is different, that helps alleviating that guilt. The more you know, the more you connect with others, whether that's online or in your community or with whoever, find that outlet. I say that self-regulation is important. A lot of us, we know how much we can take. Like some people wait till their car gets on E, below E, before they go get gas, right? Some people know they don't even get close to that point because they know they need to fuel up because I don't even like to feel like I'm about to run out of gas. Some people just go on prayer, and they pray into the gas station. So you know at what point you're about to run out that you need help. Keep that in mind concerning yourself. Regulate yourself. If you know you need to find that girlfriend you need to go off and vent with and holler and scream, or you need to go and pray and cry, whatever you need to do, you need to make sure you can do those things so you're taking care of yourself first. That's extremely important.
Joy, let me ask you, but what about in those cases when you're doing it with a family and maybe some of the other family members aren't really pulling their weight? They aren't carrying their end of the load? How do you communicate to them that you need the help?
It's very important that you find those helpers wherever you can. A lot of people don't have family. Make family. Your neighbors, your good friends, your girlfriends. Communicate with them. Let them know what your needs are. Like I live in Texas. My mother lived in Texas. They lived in Illinois, most of them. So I would keep communicating with them what we needed, whatever it was. Concerning respite, they may not have been here physically to be able to help give me a break from my mom, but trust and believe, once a year I made sure I had a vacation. So I was not working. As you saw, a lot of times I came off my job. Hey, Herb, send me a couple $100 so I can go on vacation. We went to Mexico because that was our place of peace. And so find ways they can contribute and they can help. Call mom once a week, videotape so you can be there to help. Find your neighbors, find your community, find a group of people who are dealing with friends with Alzheimer's. Okay, you sit with them a couple hours this day and we can share, we'll sit with them a couple hours this day. Whatever you can, find your community so you can get that help. And get on them if you have to. It's not about you having an attitude with me. I don't care. Your mama needs your help. She needs to see your face every once in a while, and so when you're in situations like that, it's almost like life and death, really. Because when your loved one sees your presence, they see your love, it gives them energy to go on. And a lot of times, it's not just about what the doctor and medicine they can give you. There's natural ways, a lot of times, to deal with some of those symptoms. If that doctor, if they had told me that medicine that I give my mother was going to kill her, would I have given it to her? So I would have given her some wine and knocked her behind out so she stayed asleep at night. It's not that serious, even though my mom never drunk, but that's what I would have done. Because a lot of times, and God loved them, it helps some in certain situations, but a lot of times it's what we feed ourselves, what we put in our stomachs, how we handle our stress, how we relieve our stress. So there's different ways that we can deal with some of these symptoms. Finding those things out help relieve that stress concerning yourself, because a lot of times when we're dealing with someone, when we're caregiving for them, it's a reflection of our lives. Because you think, I'm going to be like that one day. There's grief that you go with, because the person you're dealing with is not the same person that you are used to dealing with. And so it's finding a way to love them still, even though they act different. That's still my mama. That's still my sister. And so seeing that love, a lot of people say, well, it's the disease. My mama's no longer there. Well, to me, that makes it harder, because how long are you going to sacrifice for a disease? Does that disease fuel you to keep going day after day when it's harder? No. But mama will. My brother will. My husband will. So see that love through them. They're still there and they need you. So I really encourage people to find your fuel yourself, and find a community that's going to support you, whether it's your family or your made-up community.
You can tell she's a preacher, right? So, Ms. Sade, let me.
Before you go to my question.
Oh, my God. Now, Ms. Sade wants to get in on it. What I tell you?
I just want to say something to both of you, because all these years that I've been doing this, family members, huge family, I can see you guys are from a huge family. That in some cases, that doesn't matter at all. It's the kind of people that you guys have and the kind of impact that Mama Jo has made in your lives. She had poured into you. She didn't know you guys were going to go, she didn't know she was going to go through that. But whatever she poured into you sustained you and held you all together in this journey. I've seen a lot of family, there are 10 in the family. All I experienced with them was chaos. But you guys were able to hold it together because of the love, because of who she represented. And I know today, if she's looking down, she's very proud of you. And we are very proud of you.
That's so kind. That's so kind. Thank you. So, Ms. Sade, while you have the mic, talk to us, because some people are able to take care of their families in home. Some need to do it. So help us, and we only got about 2 minutes here, but talk to us about what we need to know about home care versus facility care and working them insurance options.
Okay. The insurance part of it, I won't be able to talk too much about that, because social workers and case managers are really trained about issues like that. But I will mention that what I've experienced in my own field is the importance of long-term care insurance. This insurance is very cheap if you get them when you are younger. Yes, so you are in your 20s. That's what I'm preaching to my children right now. You know, you're in your 20s, you can get those insurance as cheap as $15 a month or something. Compared to some of us that we're in our 50s now, you want to get that, that's going to be very exorbitant. But they pay for everything that you need, basically. I've had people in my home that I took care of that they were, paying $4,000 a month, and they were able to, get that because they've paid it over the years. Now, of course, Medicare is there, Medicaid is there, depending on, your benefit that you qualify for. And sometimes you have to have so much money in your purse for you to be taken over by Medicaid, So it's all a fight, but then if you are able to get a good social worker, they will help you walk it through so that your family will know to do the best thing for you. Now, to the question of home care and nursing home, there are two different cares. Home care is you are home like Mama Jo, and then through Medicaid or through your insurance, they are able to send you home providers to care for you some, greater part of the day. Sometimes you only get 4 hours a day, okay? But is that enough for you? But then if you have family support like Mama Jo did, then that is priceless. That could give our children time to go for a run, to walk in the park and come back. And they could, elevate some of those, care that they needed. Okay, so, but now not everybody can live in the home. Some, because of their care level, maybe due to a fall, they've broken their hip, or maybe their mental states with the Alzheimer that we are talking about, they cannot live at home, or they have end-stage kidney disease and all of that. They have to go into the nursing home. But I want you to know today that according to statistics, most people still live in their homes. Even though you see all those nursing homes, every nook and corner, assisted living, personal care home, group homes, most seniors still live in their homes. But then, what I've seen in my career as well is there are some homes I've visited as home health nurse, and the condition of the home is just despicable, okay? Because I've seen 70-year-old children taking care of their 90-something-year-old parent, and they don't have the strength and the stamina to do it. You walk in there, the whole place is smelling, it's filthy. You can tell that that older person is not getting the care. But then they are stubborn in their own heart. They say, I'm not leaving my house. Then what do you do in that situation? So you just have to make do whatever you can. Look for volunteers, look for community services, maybe in their churches, people to help them, you know, in that hour of their need. But the difference, major difference, is the level of care. That's what determines if you stay home or if you go to the nursing home. Now, if you decide to stay home, sometimes you don't have that communal life. You know, we saw it in the movie where people are in the nursing home. Not that I'm advocating for it, but then they are there, they have other seniors to relate with. So you build a community like that, and you have people to be around you 24/7. But when you are in your home, you could be isolated, and that can lead to so many complications for depression and even untimely death. So depending on your level of care, that would determine where you be.
So listen, we've come to time, and I didn't get to ask Mr. Olvera his last question, but he has a table back here. We'll hang around for a little bit, so if you guys want to ask us additional questions, we'll be here. If you want to rewatch the film, if you just go to pbs.org, type in My Mama Joe, you can watch it nationwide. Dr. Ogbo, thank you so much for having us. We appreciate you.
Thank you. Please, can we give them a round of applause? I appreciate your time. Thank you, even despite the weather, they all made it. Thank you so much. Now, again, just for our online audience and those in person, please, 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 we would love to hear your feedback. We live on your responses on our surveys. So please, please, there are paper surveys at the back there. And for those online, scan the QR code and tell us what you think. Tell us what you want to hear next year. All right? We are very, very, very open to feedback from you. And for our community health workers, please, please feel free to let us know if you need credit. Next is our May's event. May's event is all similar. It's on mental health, so please stay tuned for that in our platforms. And then also next month is our clinical research and engagement conference. We look forward to having you all. Thank you so much, and that's a wrap. We're closing it up. Okay? Thank you all. Thank you, Dr. Herb. Thank you so much. Ms. Oliver, thank you so much. Mr. Kimfemiwa, thank you. Mr. Olvera, I appreciate you. At the back there is information on insurance, on Ms. Akinfemiwa's business, and also everything else on Mama Joe's project. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Hello again. My name is Veronica Ajawale. I want to say a big thank you to each and every one of you for joining us for today's program. I am very certain that you have received a lot of great information that you will put to practice as we all grow together to become a healthier community. Thank you to our speaker and our panelists. Thank you for sharing today's content with us. Thank you to our locations. Thank you to our interns, our volunteers, to our sponsors and our funders. Thank you also to the staff of our program, the faculty, and the leadership of Texas Southern University for supporting us in making today's program a success. Most importantly, I want to say thank you to each and every of you, the community members. We appreciate your support. We do not want today's program to end just with today's event. We want you to continue to collaborate with us and engage with us. Our social media platforms are located at CECTX Southern U. On those platforms, you will find engaging information from today's program and all the other programs that we have going on in the Community Engagement Corps. So we implore you to continue to stay connected with us, engage with us as we move forward together in building a healthy and a wealthy community. Thank you for joining us, and we look forward to connecting soon. Bye.